rewarding the good behaviour and finding that balance of rewarding the good behaviour before it turns into...
So diversion strategies, I suppose.
Yeah.
Being considerate helps children in a number of ways. Children find it easier to make friends and to get on well with others if they learn to listen when someone is speaking to them. So we're talking about, children learning that when someone is communicating with them, they're looking at and listening to and trying to understand what another person is saying. Letting others in their social world, that is peers and friends and siblings, have a turn. So that this is a life skill. When you're a 3-year-old and you've got a 1-year-old brother, and the 1-year-old brother is starting to occupy some airspace, and people, and starting to talk and so on, and others, the 3-year-old is now learning that the audience that she once had is much more shared one than it was. That can be tough for some kids for a while.
Boys, you're not taking turns like I asked you to, so the computer's going off for 5 minutes.
Do you encourage them to say sorry and take responsibility, or how do they learn to make amends?
Well, making amends is different from saying sorry. But, the issue for me is not so much teaching children to apologise, it's timing of when you do it. And my recommendation would be, if you would like a child to apologise, then have a discussion with them about the event, but removed from the immediate discipline encounter.
Because I often don't force the apology, but I find it might come half an hour later, and they'll say, what I did to Jack wasn't very nice or something, and I'll go, that's great.
That's fine, but sometimes kids will apologise because they can't stand the stony silence. And they've got the frosty withdrawal, that they know the parent is really pissed off with them, and they're apologising to really break the cone of silence. And I guess what I'm saying, if that is the case, then it's almost like a pleading for the child to stop being ignored. And what I would suggest is that when children have made a mistake, there are two parts of it that we need to constantly focus on, is that all mistakes are forgivable in children, and we need to forgive kids and move on and let them be able to show that they've learned from that. If you always require an apology from moments where kids just lose it and so on, then it's not only unnecessary, it's not helpful. It's not adding to the child's learning in terms of their capacity to accept responsibility.
Triple P International has now got subsidiaries in the United States, Germany, the United Kingdom, China and New Zealand, and has reached a point where probably 90% of the market, the families that are being helped by Triple P, are now overseas or outside Australia. So during the last 10 years, as Triple P International has taken the program to the world, there have been a number of milestones, and those milestones have been, fortunately, mostly related to growth. A significant thing that happened a few years ago was the program Triple P International featured in a UK reality TV program, which was screened on commercial television in the UK, called Driving Mum and Dad Mad. That was an opportunity to get Triple P in front of what turned out to be a very large audience of people within the UK, and helped in the growth of the program within the UK.
But Triple P continues to grow in Australia too, with the recent opening of the first Triple P Centre in Brisbane, equipped with professionals to help parents and children dealing with specific learning, social or behavioural difficulties.
The opening of the Triple P Centre really represents a new exciting stage in the evolution of Triple P, because this is the first dedicated centre for parents in the community who are able to access the full range of Triple P interventions, from very brief and light touch interventions to much more intensive programs that are specialist programs for children with particular needs.
Renil, stop running. You might break something.
Directed discussion is a really simple idea, and that is that when children forget a rule that's been introduced, they practice the correct way or the correct alternative behaviour as an immediate consequence of that behaviour
What is our rule about moving through the house?
Well, we walk in the house.
That's right, we walk through the house. Now go back to the door and show me.
Sure, Mum.
Simple, practical, can be followed through for many kind of more minor behaviours but they've become irritating for the parent because they have to keep on reminding the child every day to do something. And that's very frustrating for parents when kids will do as they've been told, but only when they're reminded.
I have a 2-year-old daughter who's become very affectionate and is hugging strangers around the leg, male, female, indiscriminately. And I'm not quite sure whether to discourage that. We've talked about shaking hands and etc., but I would think it would be confusing for a 2-year-old to know who to cuddle, who not to, etc.
Actually, my son used to do this to strangers in the street. Hello, man. Give them a big hug. I think the thing that we have to remember is that on the one hand, there's the stranger danger thing that we're all kind of a little bit too neurotic about, in my view. But there's also we need to teach our kids what is the appropriate expression of affection and touching, particularly with people they don't know or that they know. So I think it is appropriate if children are going around hugging people that they don't know, that you basically intervene. You say, no, we don't hug people we don't know. Come and do this, and use a diversion tactic, move them onto something else. Often if you say, if you'd like to give someone a hug, who around here do you know? And then you can give them a chance to practice a better selection of a target and, go and give them a hug if they'd like to. But you're encouraging them to keep away from people they've never met, don't know. In fact, most adults won't mind this, but it's not a good thing to encourage.
One of the challenges in rolling out the program is to make sure that the program is in a format that is appropriate for the country that you're going into. A second thing that you need to consider when you're rolling out a program internationally is that when you're dealing with the public health system, when you're dealing with the governments in those countries, they're all set up differently. And in some places, it's most effective to work at the national government level. In places where you've got a structure like Australia, where you've got a federation, then you might be dealing with individual governments or regional governments in those places. So you need to come to grips and understand what the structure is, political structure is. Something that is a common question whenever you go into a new area or start working with a new population of families is the question about, well, it's worked with this group, but we're different. So the people in this part of the world culturally are different from other parts of the world you've worked with. So we need to, when we go into those places, we need to demonstrate to the local governments that the system that's proved effective in 20 countries already is also going to be effective in their country. So typically we start with a trial to do that.
Firstly,
discipline.
Discipline, and we need to understand how to train him for the discipline too. Therefore, we need to train ourselves first.
Yeah, and calm him.